The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 136. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of courageous women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Want to learn how you can change your inner beliefs and attitudes? Download a free copy of the ebook by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have a special lady who's all the way from Virginia. She is a TV journalist who's now an entrepreneur, and she's here to share her story with us. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Cheryl Tan. Cheryl, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Sheena, I am doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having me on your show. I'm honored. So, as you mentioned, I'm a TV journalist. I have, for most of my adult life, have been in TV news. And in the middle of 2014, I stepped way out of my comfort zone to start my own company. And a couple of months ago, I started a podcast called Standout with Cheryl Tan. So that feels a little bit more within what I'm used to. But the business part was certainly something new to me. I'd been in TV news for so long, right after college. And I realized that I look at things very differently. I look at situations and stories and people from a journalist's perspective. So I take the company that I have now using that journalist perspective and helping entrepreneurs get the media attention that they're looking for, that helps them be seen as experts in their field. It's a lot of fun. It kind of mixes both things together.
That's awesome. And I love how you're helping people stand out, which is, I think that's the name of your podcast too, right?
Yeah, it is.
Sweet. And what's your cultural background?
I'm Chinese American. My mom and dad were both born in the Philippines. We're Chinese, and they moved to New York City a couple of years before I was born. I was born in New York, and I grew up in Virginia.
Awesome. And, I'm also Chinese, born in the Philippines. So it's such a, it's cool when I get to hear where people are from and what their backgrounds are. And, you have these common things. So it's pretty cool to learn that. And what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
I love this one. It's from William Jennings Bryan. The way to develop self-confidence is to do the thing you fear and get a record of successful experiences behind you.
I love that because, we all fear stuff, right? I mean, everyone does it. I fear, I had a lot of fears, like doing videos, even doing this podcast. I was like so afraid that people were not going to listen to me. And I was like, what if nobody listens to me? Nobody wants to hear this, or what if I screw up, or what, we have all these what ifs, and it holds us back. So, it's great that, this quote is just about facing your fears and just going ahead and doing it. So great quote. I love that. And I think it's the first time I've heard it. And, in your own words, how would you define self-confidence?
Well, the reason I love this quote is because you, in my opinion, need to have some wins. You need to get some wins on the board to get the confidence to keep moving you forward. So to me, having self-confidence is being in a place where you don't care so much about what other people think. Like you're pretty cool with what it is you're doing because you're on the right track. And that track means that you're also being true to yourself, as well as following a path that will provide you a better life for you as well as for your family members. But I think it's hard to get to the next step when you're constantly hitting a wall. So it's getting those building blocks of wins, things that are going right so that you can get that confidence to move forward. So when I started back in TV way back when, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't realize how important mentors were, didn't have any connections. I didn't even have the right makeup help. I didn't know any of that. Didn't realize even how hard it was to get where I was. Didn't realize how much harder it would be to get to the next level. But each step of the way, I would find the pieces I needed. So I would get the small wins. And I probably should not have done it when I did, but I kept saying, all right, if this doesn't work, I'm going to do something else. But it was those small wins that would keep me going. So my first on-air reporter job was in Macon, Georgia. I had done a bunch of things, did a bunch of internships, worked with a bunch of people for free before getting that first job. But it was that first very low paying, but paying job in Macon, Georgia. But then while I was there, I met people, I learned, I reported, I wrote. I got a spot on the weekend anchor desk, and that was the next win. Then I got a spot as a main anchor on the main anchor desk. And then I got another job into another city in a bigger market. Each step helps build your confidence and then helps push you harder to make it to the next step. Like, I don't think that confidence is something that you have right away. I believe that it's something that you build up to. And as you get more wins on the board, you'll get more and more confidence to face more fears because, boy, everything is scary.
I love it. And I totally agree, right? You just got to keep on doing it until, you just have to. Because for me, like, self-confidence is just a never ending journey. So you're always building it up and just having these small wins, whether it's making your first dollar or, like you said, having your first job. I mean, it's all wins, right? No matter how big or small they are. And I think, society just focuses on what we fail versus the small wins, which is why so many people are so afraid to do what they want to do. So thanks for sharing that. And what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
Well, you said it, Sheena, is that it's a journey. It really is. So I don't actually I don't really look at it like a before and an after, but more like a continuation. Like every day there's something new to learn. So I mentioned that I didn't have any connections in the beginning, like none, less than none. So what I did is I tried to make some. I tried to meet people very early in my career. While I didn't know people on air, I was able to meet some people through other people that I knew. So anyone who was even close to being in the news business, I talked to people at my college, anyone who was connected. I would say, hey, can I meet with them for coffee? Just to ask them stuff about this business I had nothing, like just no information about. And they would tell me a bunch of different things. Like I met with so many people, drove to different cities, just would pack up and say, Dad, I'm going. And they would tell me just a bunch of different things. The news business, it's cutthroat. You shouldn't get into it. Another person would tell me that I would get far because I was an Asian American woman. And then another person would say, oh, you're an Asian American woman. It's going to be really, really hard for you. Well, the thing is, if you listen to all of those voices, you're going to do nothing. You'll have this paralysis thing going. But believing in yourself means listening to some of the voices in your own head. And despite that, moving forward, but really just kind of blocking out what other people are saying and get your own wins in your own way.
Awesome. And it's true, right? I mean, we can't let other people's perception get in the way of our dreams because, I mean, they're just other people's opinions. It's not real. You don't have to believe in them. You can choose what you want to do, right? So, I mean, what was that aha moment in your life when you realized, I don't care what people are going to say. I'm just going to be a news anchor no matter what. Like, what was that point in your life?
Well, I think at that point I was on the path. But more so, the aha moment I had recently was that shift that I had from leaving the news to really one of the scariest things I've ever done is to leave the job, leave a paycheck, leave insurance, and go out on my own, to be my own boss. I mean, that was really, really scary. And it still is. But my aha moment came, it was maybe 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. But at that time, I worked on the morning show, so my hours were very early. I would get to work at 3:30 in the morning. We'd be on the air at 4:30, and we were in the middle of a 4.5 hour block of news because that's where it's going. More news hours, and so my shows were 4.5 hours every weekday. And I was in the middle of one of those 4.5 hour news blocks one day. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm exhausted. I have 3 kids. So at night I was a bear to be around. And I just didn't feel like it was worth it anymore. It stopped making sense. While I love the people I worked with, I love what I was able to do, it just stopped making sense. And I felt in that moment, while I was doing the news, I was like, I can really impact more people positively with the skills that I have learned, the communication skills, the writing, the empowering skills, by creating something else, by leaving and doing something completely different. And so that was my aha moment from leaving something that I loved and had done for so many years to being my own boss.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And, what's your life like now after that discovery?
It's a roller coaster, as you know. When you're your own boss, you are in charge. Your resume or your video reel, they don't define you anymore, because that's what I had before. It's much more personal than that. It's whether you can deliver the results that you've promised to people who are going to pay you money. So that's been a learning experience. It's been a great one. People are very open, but it's also a huge learning curve. You're working with figuring out the business end of your business, and then trying to get in front of more people and trying to figure out what it is they want with what it is you offer. I launched the podcast just a couple of months ago just because it's something that I'm sort of used to, just interviewing people and talking with them. And so that's been a lot of fun. But boy, there's a lot of technical stuff that I never had to handle before. That is now my responsibility. And so it's just everything is all you. And so that's what I've learned. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been amazing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I am with you in the technical part of the podcast. When I first set this thing up, I was like, I have no clue where to start, and sometimes the technical stuff kind of stops you from doing it, but you just got to push through, and it becomes easier the more you do it, right? So I know what you were feeling. So Cheryl, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey of self-confidence. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
Well, I would first say is you are not alone. Sheena, you have amassed a Rolodex of so many powerful women. And that's the thing, is there are a lot of people who are in your same situation. So what I would say is find people who will, A, support you, B, challenge you, and C, help you to grow personally and professionally. And you'll be right there to help them as well. But it's finding people who can help you on your journey instead of, and it's the way it is, some people around you that you may know right now may just say, why don't you do something different? Why don't you get a job? Or why don't you stay where you are? And so it's finding the people who will help move you to the next level. And then maybe you can bring those other people that you knew in your life and bring them with you and bring them up. But it's finding those people to help you on that path.
I love it, and it's so true. Having a support system can really, help you, lift you up when in times you need them, right? Because we all do, right? And that's why, having this podcast or just situating yourself with like-minded people will help you along the way. So great advice. And Cheryl, if our listeners want to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, and maybe want to listen to your podcast, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Absolutely. I would love if they did. My podcast is called Standout with Cheryl Tan, and you can find that on iTunes, or you can just go to my website, CherylTanMedia.com. And if you search Cheryl Tan, I'm on all the social networks, probably too many of them, but Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that. So it's Cheryl Tan or Cheryl Tan Media.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Cheryl, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Cheryl's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I just want to thank Cheryl for taking the time to share her journey and story with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sheena, for having me on your show.
Not a problem. It was awesome having you on. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you later. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Visit thetaoofselfconfidence.com for links to everything we chatted about today, as well as killer resources, gifts, and so much more. Subscribe to The Tao of Self-Confidence on iTunes or Stitcher to hear more stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence.